Hi, welcome back to Austin Loves Movies. Today I'm going to talk about a movie that I truly cherish, and it's one of those movies that I really wanted to do this podcast because of this. It's impacted my love of entertainment, and it really kind of started my love of slasher movies, and that is 1978's John Carpenter's classic Halloween, starring Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis. So, before I start anything, I just want to say this video is specifically going to be for the original because there's so much to talk about in the other movies that they're probably just going to be separate reviews and opinions. And this movie, it's just practically going to be a love letter and a thank you and celebration of this movie. So the first thing I kind of want to show you what I have about the Halloween franchise is I found this magazine a couple weeks before Halloween Kills came out, and it's just kind of this Remind magazine. It's the mask, the music, the mayhem, and the movies. So I thought that was a little cool magazine. And then also I have this 35th anniversary edition of Halloween, and it has just kind of this like picture book to it, so you kind of see behind the scenes of it and just kind of how they filmed it. And of course, why I love this DVD so much is it has an auto commentary from Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter, and getting those two together for a Halloween event is very, very hard. I don't even believe John Carpenter even went to any of the new Halloween movie premieres, so 2018 Halloween Kills. So yeah, it's very, very hard for them to get together or the place would go nuts. So yeah, and this DVD is one of my favorites. And also I have a very prized and treasured possession that I will show you at the end of the video. So let's go on to my thoughts about Halloween 1978. When I was preparing this video, it was kind of hard to write about it, not so much as what am I going to say, but it was more, what am I going to say that has not been said before? Because it feels like every person who reviews Halloween, or even a general Halloween fan, they don't have to do these videos or review it. It kind of says the same thing, like how the original is just going to be the best and nothing beats it. And it goes for the other sequels, like Halloween's just one of those franchises. It has the good, the bad, and the oh my god ugly. And everybody kind of says the same thing about those two, like, why was Busta Rhymes in Halloween Resurrection? Why was there a Halloween Resurrection? But I'm gonna get into those other movies. But the first thing I want to talk about in 1978's Halloween is Deborah Hill. I feel like she definitely is the underdog of the creator of this movie, because everybody's like, John Carpenter, it's John Carpenter's film, which is true, and he does deserve all credit. But also Deborah Hill, who was his girlfriend at the time, and was producing this movie as well, and she helped co-wrote the script, kind of helped him direct it. She was always there. And Jamie Lee Curtis has always credited her when not a lot of people do. And I think that's kind of sad, because Deborah Hill was the responsibility of Laurie Stroud and the girl talk and, the boyfriend talk and everything. That was Deborah Hill. She really brought out the teenage girl friend group to life, while John Carpenter was more creating the Dr. Loomis, Michael Myers is evil type of speeches and monologues, I guess. So, what I really love, and I watched this movie just the other day just to kind of review everything, and also just gives me an excuse to watch this movie for the 100 millionth time. And I noticed a couple things, probably because I was preparing for this review and not so much just to watch it, but I really noticed something that really stood out is that when Michael Myers attacks his victims, it takes forever to do the build-up. So take the very first scene, for example. It's on October 31st, Halloween, 1963, and you start off the movie with this view of the Myers house, and then you get closer and closer to the house, go around the window, see Judith and her boyfriend, and then it takes forever to actually for him to get into the house, grab the knife, which is actually Deborah Hill's hand. It was actually a 6-year-old boy's hand. Went up the stairs, picked the mask up, and then kill her. And then go back downstairs. And then the parents come out of the car and they're like, Michael, and they take his mask off. And you just have this really emotionless boy. He just standing there with a bloody knife and the clown outfit. And what makes that scene so scary and really, really memorable, besides it being the first scene, is that it takes forever to actually build up to the kill. And when that attack happens, it's quick. And you don't really actually get to see it. You just see air with screaming and a knife. But you don't really actually get to see the kill. And then when he's stunned and turns around, goes back to the stairs, it's very, very long and slow again. It's almost like John Carpenter. I don't know if he did this on purpose or he's just that good of a director. It's almost like the build-up is much more important than the attack itself. And you have some really great examples of that, probably on every attack. Like, take Annie's death in the movie. Yeah, she's the one who dies in the car, and you just see her walking and she's singing this little song, and it's really, really tense because the car is locked, and then she goes back to the house, gets the keys, goes back to the car, but then the car is unlocked, and all of a sudden the windows are fogged up, and he attacks her. And even though he attacks her, it still takes a moment when she's actually in the car. It's like the moment she realizes something's wrong, that's when it happens. It's not just she sits down, boom, it's done. And so that's probably why John Carpenter is considered a master of suspense. Because Halloween, at least the original for sure, has absolutely no blood in it. Maybe has some blood splatters, but really there is no blood. It's all suspense. And they definitely lost that with even starting in Halloween 2. So that's why I love this movie as well. It's the one movie where I'm truly interested in the story. I'm truly invested in it. Maybe that's a better word. And it just kind of scares me. Well, probably not scare me because I've seen this movie 100 times and I know what's gonna happen. I can probably honestly quote this movie. I know every single scene probably. But I'm not going to do a Halloween recreation on this video. Nobody wants to see that. Nor do I want to make that. And so, there's also a really good scene I love is when Laurie Stroud kind of notices for the first time that something's wrong, and the kids she's babysitting, Tommy Doyle and Lindsay Wallace, they're in bed, they're asleep, and she goes out and goes to the house across the street, and then she discovers her friends, and then Michael attacks her. But it takes probably a good 2.5 minutes for her to actually, at least it feels like a good 2.5 minutes, for her to actually cross the street and then go up the stairs. And you don't get to see a lot of that in other movies, and so that's definitely one of the reasons why it's one of a kind. This movie just rocks. I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely a 10 out of 10. And what I loved about Laurie Strode is, yes, she's the final girl. She's the survivor. But she doesn't really interact with Michael until the last 15 minutes of the movie. Usually, like Nightmare on Elm Street, like Freddy and Nancy have this interaction, like, pretty early on, and then the whole movie is like, why don't you believe me? But that's going to be another review. Trust me, that really is. But actually, it's kind of the opposite. Tommy Doyle is the one who sees her, sees him and then tries to tell her about it, and she just blows him off. It's like, it's Halloween because, you see, he's getting bullied by these 3 kids, and so they're like, oh, they're just trying to scare you because they're taunting him, like, the boogeyman's coming. And so he's totally scared. And she doesn't believe him until she gets attacked. And that's what I really love. This is one of the first time the final girls don't really interact with the killer until, like, close to the end of the movie. But speaking of Laurie Strode, let's talk into her character a little bit. She is a quiet, smart teenage girl. She loves to babysit. She really is a book smart person, but she is absolutely dumb. And before everyone fires shots at me, let me explain. Just hear me out. She's dumb in the last moments of the movie. Let's put it that way. Like, who drops the knife near the guy who just tried to kill you? It does not make sense. Oh, and speaking of that, that's a pretty great scene. The whole final chase, like, with her in the closet and he trying to get to her, and then he just kind of raises up, like from the dead almost. Yeah, that's a great scene. But still, who puts the knife right by him? Like, I watched it the other day, and I literally just laughed out loud. And like, you're just asking to die at this moment. Like, I get it. Maybe the first time you think he's a human being, so he's dead. But then the second time, like, no. And what's worse is he's more dumb in the second movie. Well, I'll get to that in that Halloween D review. He doesn't learn. But Laurie Stroud is played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who is the daughter of Jana Lee, who played Marion in Psycho. And I noticed this too the other day when I watched it. It was Sam Loomis is the doctor, played by Dr. Donald Pleasance. I almost said Dr. Loomis. And then his nurse is Marion. Well, like I said, Marion is played by Jana Lee in Psycho, who's the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis, and her boyfriend in the movie is Sam Loomis. So, I don't know if Marion was just kind of luck, but I think you would have to be too clever to, like, not say that you did that on purpose. I think they did it on purpose, but I honestly really did not notice that until the last time I watched it, and I was kind of disappointed in myself for not knowing that, for how many times I watched this movie, and like scary movies in general. Also, to be fair, like, I like Psycho, but I'm not like the biggest fan of Psycho. I'm just definitely more into the general slashers, I guess. So, with that being said, there's some really great scenes of acting in this movie, and one that sticks out like a sore thumb is Dr. Loomis's speech about Michael being the personification of evil. He is just evil, and he has the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, and what makes that scene really memorable, besides the dialogue, is he absolutely looks terrified. He is as terrified of Michael than Laurie Strode is. And he's doing everything in his power to stop this evil and stop Michael. It really is the counterpart to like Ahab in Moby Dick. And I think that's really, really interesting. So, but also, it's pretty funny too, because there's a scene in the movie, and it's in broad daylight. Michael is driving in the streets in the station wagon, and he robs a store, and he grabs like some knives and stuff, rope, and a mask, and he's right behind Loomis too, and he just drives by. And what's so funny too is Dr. Loomis wants so bad to stop this, and he wants to prevent this night to happen and be a recreation of 1963. But if he only turned his back, like at the store, or at least turned to the right, this whole night would have been avoided too. If he just turned his head to the right, which I think is absolutely hilarious. And I didn't kind of realize how dramatic Dr. Loomis kind of is, because there's a scene after he escapes from Smith's Grove Asylum, and he's really fed up. He's angry, and somebody says, one of the other doctors, like, he can't drive a car. Like, no one taught him, and Dr. Loomis just so very dramatic about it. He's like, well, he was doing very nice, or he was doing very well last night. Somebody probably gave him lessons. Which in Halloween 6, it is revealed that the doctor who he was talking to actually was the reason he escaped. But taking that away, it is kind of very, very dramatic. And then the whole, I shot him 6 times, over and over and over again, kind of becomes a little bit laughable, but still iconic. And we cannot talk about iconic scenes in this movie without the end. When he does save Laurie, he shoots him 6 times, which technically in the movie it was 7. But in the script it was 6, and he falls off the balcony, and he's there, and it was the boogeyman, and matter of fact it was, and he goes to the end of the house, and he's gone. Michael's just gone. And one of the things that makes this movie or as Michael Myers, as iconic as he is you don't know if he's supernatural or he's human. There's always a good mix between the two. And I definitely feel like that was long gone after these sequels. And that's kind of a shame because Michael Myers is part supernatural and part human. And so that's kind of my review of Halloween. Like my favorite kind of scenes and stuff. It's definitely iconic and especially 10 out of 10 for me. And so I want to talk about the impact of Halloween. Halloween definitely inspired a lot of ripoffs. Friday the 13th is kind of a ripoff on Halloween, but it's based on camp. And obviously, there's some more franchises that worked better than others. Friday, you got Jason, and then you got Freddy, which I don't think really is a ripoff of Halloween. Yeah, maybe there wouldn't be no Freddy without Michael, but Freddy's kind of a different character. But again, that's going to be a different review. I'm getting ahead of myself. And with that being said, Michael did open the door for future slashers. And of course, there definitely was slashers before Halloween. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Black Christmas, Psycho, if you considered Psycho a slasher or more of a thriller. I don't know. I've heard different things. But Michael really opened that door, and Halloween really made a lot of doors open for a lot of different people. But it's funny, a lot of people would think Jamie Lee Curtis right away would be famous and be really successful. No, actually, I believe she said she didn't get work for 2 years. John Carpenter practically gave her another job in The Fog. Apparently, it was like, it's a good movie, and you were great in it, but they didn't offer jobs or anything. And then that's when you kind of get into the scream queen era of Jamie Lee Curtis. You have Halloween 2, The Fog, Terror Train, Prom Night. And then she was like, no more after Halloween 2. And then that's when you get more into like My Girl, A Fish Called Wanda, Trading Places, True Lies, stuff like that. But I always loved that Jamie Lee Curtis always came back and is grateful for the Halloween franchise. That's the one thing I am grateful that she didn't shrug it off like maybe other people would do, like Jennifer Aniston does with Leprechaun, which honestly, I don't honestly blame her, Jennifer Aniston there. I would probably forget that too. But one of there's just wild theories about this movie, and I do feel like next year is 45 years since the movie's been made and released. I feel like a lot of people overanalyze this movie, and it really shouldn't be overanalyzed. So, some of the theories that really stuck to me was that Dr. Loomis wanted Michael Myers to happen and kind of wreak like havoc on the town, which I don't think makes any sense. Look at my Dr. Loomis kind of review a couple minutes ago. So that doesn't make sense. And then also, Laurie wasn't the main target of Michael. It was Annie, because she yelled, "Hey jerk, speak kills" to him, kind of was sassing him. And he stalks her and stuff like that, and Annie was the main target. And I don't think that theory sticks because, one, Laurie Stroud is the first person Michael sees out of the group. And she's the one that puts the key to the Myers house under the mat because her dad's a real estate agent. So then he sees her. And then he sees her and she sees him at the school where he's outside the window and he's just staring at her. And then you have the whole "hey jerk, speak kills" thing. But also he's hiding like in the bush. And only Laurie sees it. Annie is like too busy like doing stuff, like looking inside her bag. So only Laurie sees it, and he just disappears out of nowhere. Which also I think what is kind of the, is he supernatural or is he human? That scene really makes it that question too. And also there's a deleted scene, well, not so much deleted, but there was a TV version of Halloween in the 80s, and John Carpenter had to film some more scenes for the movie so they can take like the gorier, more intense scenes out of the movie and put some more character stuff in. And it is revealed in one of the scenes that Linda is being followed. So I don't think Michael Myers really had any intended target. And yes, this is before the brother-sister angle, and I'm not going to even talk about that because this is just the first one. And so I don't think Michael Myers had an intended target. Laurie happened to survive. The other girls didn't. And Michael is just evil. That's all he is. He's just evil. And there's really no reason to overanalyze this, really. And also, the last theory that really kind of I found interesting was Laurie survived because he was a virgin. I'm not, of course, that's the cliche in these movies that the virgin survives, but I don't think that's necessarily true. She had time to have that flight or fight reaction, and I think those instincts is what makes her survive. I don't think it had nothing to do with anything besides that the other victims didn't really have time or they weren't prepared. I mean, Laurie was running. She just saw anything like she took the hanger and like stabbed him in the eye, and then he dropped the knife and she stabbed him, and so it really wasn't anything but besides a flight or fight reaction, in my opinion. So the impact of Halloween, I think, is very, very interesting because it's definitely one of the most beloved franchises in the world. It's definitely one of the most diverse, in a way, with so many storylines. Like, to watch this, you have to watch this. Or if you watch this, you have to forget this. It's definitely, the timeline is everywhere. And overall, this movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. I truly enjoy it. It's one of the only movies I can watch over and over again and never be bored with it. And apparently I find something new with it every time. Or at least once in a while I find something new with it. So that being said, I think that's gonna wrap up my review itself. But I am definitely gonna show you my treasured possession. And that is my 35th anniversary Halloween poster signed by a lot of people from the original. I have Nick Castle, PJ Souls, Nancy Loomis, and PJ played Linda, Nancy played Annie. I have Brian Andrews, Tommy Doyle. Of course, I don't have like Kyle Richards or Jamie Lee or John Carpenter or anything like that. But I went to the 35th anniversary convention in Pasadena, California, where they shot the film. And one of my most treasured moments in that entire event was meeting Nick Castle, because they were doing this panel for, I think, the Halloween remake. So a lot of the original were sticking in the room, and me and a few other friends were fans. Were kind of just hanging out, and I decided to go up to Nick Castle. And before I knew it, he was just talking to me, and he was the nicest guy ever. And I asked him about the head tilt. And I did not ask him to do the head tilt for me. I just asked him, hey, like, how did the head tilt come? Because there's a scene in the movie, he kills Bob and he's just kind of like, kind of like a dog. And before I know it, he personally did that head tilt for me. I'm pretty sure I looked like a complete moron. My jaw was probably on the ground. I just could not believe what happened. It's like Michael Myers just personally did the head tilt for me. That to me is an honor. And then also he showed me a picture of his dogs on his phone. Yeah, I got to see Nick Castle's dogs. Again, I didn't know what was happening. Even I was just like, okay. And it was a very fun event. I'm not sure if they do it anymore. I know, like, they go to, like, Monster Mania, stuff like that. Texas Nightmare. But I don't know if they have a specific Halloween conventions anymore. Because this was a lot of people from all the movies. So, yeah. Here's my poster. So anyway, I think that is going to wrap up my thoughts about Halloween. I hope you really enjoyed it. I want to know what you think about this movie as well. So please put a comment down in the comments, and thank you for watching, and I will be back soon.